This is breaking news.
Good morning. We begin with breaking news this morning. In Cambria County, a building explosion there has killed one person. Two are still missing at this hour. Now, it happened around 11 o'clock at Didion Milling. This is on the 500 block of William Street.
Our Kelly Greenberg is live at the scene. And Callie, we've had several reports of people injured, but we do know that two are missing. Any word on that yet?
No, we're hoping to get an update within the increments of half hours, but we know that two people are missing the building, and there has been one confirmed fatality. There were a total of 16 men and women inside the lab. Two of them came out unharmed. 14 have suffered injuries and have been sent to area hospitals. And from what we were able to hear throughout the morning is that more than 4 med flights were taken from the scene when it came in at 11 p.m. yesterday evening. We know that 37 different crews from around the state are responding to the explosion here in Cambria. There are many of which are still on the scene, according to the Cambria County Sheriff's Office. Now, for people here in Cambria and in the surrounding areas, it's important to note that he did mention there's no harm to the community while they're working to contain the debris and the flame. There's no chemical harm. There's no, they haven't been able to detect any gas leaks, so there's no need for evacuations here in the surrounding areas. So people here are safe. They're just asking, you know, we spoke to a member of the Didion Milling company, and he said he's just asking people to think about the families and think about the people who are involved in this explosion late last evening, those 16 people inside the buildings. We'll bring you more updates as they become available. As I mentioned, we're hoping to get new updates incoming every half hour. Reporting live in Cambria, Callie Greenberg, NBC 15 News.
This is a special edition of NBC 15 News. Catastrophe in Cambria. A community reacts.
Today means that, you know, a baby is going to grow up without knowing a father.
Catastrophe in Cambria. At least one person is dead and a dozen hurt after an explosion at a plant in Cambria County. NBC 15's Amy Flugsopt is leading our live special edition team coverage from Cambria. Amy, good afternoon.
Sarah, good afternoon to you. Many of the roads in and out of Cambria right now are still closed as crews are on scene here at the Didion Milling plant, still searching for two missing people. Last night's explosion shook the small rural community. I just talked with the two young ladies here that came by the school, and they said they just lived blocks away from the area. They had thought a transformer outside of their home had blown up, and when they ran outside to see what had happened, they were shocked. One woman told me her neighbor works here at the plant and that he had gotten home just moments before that explosion. And once that happened, he turned around and took off back to the plant to help those in need. Now, what we do know at this time is there is one person dead, and he is a father to just a 13-month-old baby. Two people did walk out of that explosion okay. About 10 others, though, were taken by ambulance and med flight to area hospitals with some pretty severe injuries. One woman I talked to earlier this morning said her nephew, a 20-year-old, had picked up an extra shift last night and had both of his legs amputated because of his injuries there. So 17 employees were inside at the time of the explosion. Again, 2 walked out, 1 dead, 10 taken to the area. And the big question is right now, is that building safe for people to go back in to continue that search?
This is very difficult for everybody that's been there, including the families that had sat for hours waiting for some type of information.
So this afternoon, we did learn that the mill was cited by federal safety investigators 6 years ago for exposing workers to dust explosion hazards. And records from OSHA say the plant did not have any explosive protective system in January of 2011, and that they ordered the mill to correct that problem in April of that year. That case was closed. The plant hasn't been cited since, but after last night's explosion, OSHA is back on scene investigating. Now, again, this was such a massive explosion. More than 30 responders for different agencies were here on scene. Some of those first responders rushing in to help those in need. Our Sarah Brackbill actually spoke with a nurse who was among those to see those first injuries coming through. And what was that like for her today?
Yeah, well, the nurse I spoke with says at least 50 extra people just came into the hospital to help those victims who came in. But kind of just to give you an idea of the people who make up Cambria, after she got off her night shift, she ran to the gas station to pick up donuts and cookies and brought them straight to her church, hoping to bring a little extra comfort to anyone who needed it.
It's what we do. This is home. And these are our people. Oh my gosh, I knew what happened when, as soon as I found out that where it was, I knew that it was bad.
Janelle says with a town of only 800 people, everybody is going to be affected in some kind of way. And Amy, after Janelle finished dropping off these food items at the church, she then went to the fire station because that's where her son works. He actually worked there throughout the night after the call came in.
Yeah, it's going to be a long healing process. Like we said, such a tight-knit community. It's really not a cliche in this case. These people really do all know each other and know somebody that worked at that plant.
Exactly. That's what she kept telling me over and over again. So it's really true.
All right, Sarah, thanks so much.
You.
Now, that is just one example of many people coming together out here to try and make this all work. There are tons of donations stemming in. The Red Cross has had a lot of volunteers out here on scene, many of which weren't too far away from the area. They were actually up in the Wisconsin Dells for a conference. So when that call came in, they rushed straight to Cambria. Now, our Hannah Flood continues our team coverage. And Hannah, you spent some time at the school today. And what's the school doing? Because right here, we're on the school property as it butts right up to the plant.
Yeah, Amy, the school is right near the factory. They almost share a property here. So the school was closed today. They closed down the whole district just for safety precautions. They weren't sure the stability of the plant following the explosion. The school definitely wasn't empty, though. We stopped by today and food staff, the superintendent, teachers were there. They were making food to bring down to folks down at the scene. The emergency crews who were down there, they were making food for folks over at the Red Cross at the church. The superintendent tells me it's just very telling of their community that even on a day that they were given off, people came in just to show their support and to help.
But I think that's what happens, and I've noticed that with people already. This is an opportunity to remember that we need to just all be there for each other.
There were even some students who were there helping out today, even though they were giving the day off. I spoke to one who told me they're already starting to think about the future, as so many people in this community will be impacted by what happened at the plant.
For my mom especially, it's been really hard for us to think about how this is going to change everything, because Didion is the workplace for most people around here.
And Amy, tomorrow is actually Cambria Explosion's graduation. They're setting up for graduation today, but they weren't sure if they were actually going to hold the graduation. They were waiting on a word from the EMS crews down at the scene if things were going to be safe to hold that tomorrow. They were setting up just in case. And around 3 o'clock today, the superintendent actually got the word that things will be safe enough. So they will have school tomorrow and they will be holding that graduation ceremony. But as you heard, there are still a lot of worries around here. So there is a little bit of that somberness around the celebration.
Our team coverage continues in Cambria. We're checking back in with NBC 15's Amy Flugsopt, who has more on this deadly explosion. Amy?
Hey, Sarah, yeah, the latest thing that we know out here is that there will be a press conference tonight at 7:30 where the Cambria Fire Chief is expected to address today's search and rescue mission. The last time we've actually heard any update from authorities was back at 5 o'clock this morning. That's just how busy that they've been. What we can tell you, 1 person is dead, 2 still missing, and nearly a dozen others have been taken to area hospitals with severe injuries. Now, we've talked a lot about the victims that we've heard about today, but yet this is impacting the entire community. We bring in now Hannah Flood to continue our team coverage. And Hannah, we can't say enough how much this is impacting the small rural community of Cambria.
Absolutely, Amy. Just to put it in perspective, about 700 people live in this village. About 200 people are employed at this plant. So, of course, all of the people who work there are greatly impacted. That doesn't even include all of the local farmers that supply the mill, the truck drivers that drive things in and out of the mill, and just the people who work in town because this plant exists here. So everyone I spoke to in the community says the mill just runs a vein through this entire city. And they say that many people have worked for the volunteer emergency services because this is a small area. All of their emergency services are volunteer based. One woman I spoke with says many people in town also have scanners, police scanners. So when this did happen, many people were aware of what's going on. She says her son actually works at the dispatch center. He was working last night and was one of the first people to take a phone call about the explosion.
It hit him really hard too, where he's sitting behind. How can he help? But I told him, you were helping. You were behind the phone. So you got everybody to listen, you got everybody out there, and it was fast.
Local crews are still out here today. Amy, we're told that some people from the fire department are still hanging around. And this even went far beyond the people who work there, the emergency crews. Today, school was canceled for students in the district. Tomorrow's their graduation. There was a question for a while if they were going to hold the graduation here because the school is so close to the mill site. The superintendent said several area school districts did reach out to him and offer to host the graduation if it wasn't safe to hold it here. Earlier today, though, crews did inform the superintendent that the area is expected to be safe, so kids will be in school tomorrow and they will be holding that graduation ceremony here.